Your second life begins at 40, here is the real reason why. A spiritual truth inspired by Paramhansa Yogananda. There is a moment in life that does not arrive with celebration. It comes without announcement. No one prepares you for it. It often appears quietly, somewhere around the age of 40. Not as a crisis. Not as a breakdown. But as a pause. A subtle inner pause where the soul takes a breath and asks a question the mind cannot ignore anymore. Is this all? Is this who I am meant to be? Is there something deeper calling me? Paramhansa Yogananda taught that this moment is not accidental. It is biological, psychological, and spiritual. It is the threshold between two lives. Before we go deeper, take a moment. If you feel this message echoing something within you, subscribe to this channel. Divya Antar exists for those who sense that life is not merely to be survived, but understood. Share your reflections in the comments, and if this message resonates, help it reach others who may be standing at the same inner doorway. Now, let us understand the truth. Yogananda explained that human life unfolds in intelligently designed phases. Nature does not move randomly. Consciousness does not evolve without order. The first half of life is outward-facing. The second half is inward-turning. The first life is about becoming someone. The second life is about remembering who you are. In the early decades, energy flows toward the senses. You are driven to explore, achieve, compete, desire, and prove yourself. This is not a mistake. It is necessary. The soul must experience the world fully to understand its limits. During this phase, ambition feels essential. Restlessness feels normal. The hunger for more never seems satisfied. You build careers. You form identities. You accumulate experiences, roles, responsibilities, and expectations. And for a long time, this feels like progress. But somewhere near 40, something begins to change. Not outside first. Inside. The nervous system matures. Hormonal rhythms shift. The relentless drive of ego slowly loses its grip. What once excited you begins to feel repetitive. What once motivated you begins to feel empty. What once felt urgent begins to feel strangely irrelevant. This is not failure. It is not decline. It is transition. Yogananda taught that around this age, nature begins to withdraw energy from the senses and redirect it toward reflection. This is why many people feel drawn toward meaning, spirituality, and inner peace after 40, even if they never cared for these things before. The tragedy is not that this shift happens. The tragedy is that society does not honor it. Modern culture glorifies perpetual youth, endless productivity, and constant distraction. But the soul is asking for depth. The second life begins the moment you stop asking, "What can I get from life?" and begin asking, "What is life asking from me?" Around 40, the illusion of infinite time dissolves. Mortality becomes real, not as fear, but as clarity. You realize that time is not endless. Energy is not infinite. Attention is precious. This awareness sharpens perception. You begin to see clearly which relationships nourish you and which drain you. Which goals are aligned and which were inherited from others' expectations. Which struggles are meaningful and which are self-imposed. Yogananda taught that wisdom is not the result of age alone. It is the meeting of awareness and experience. Before 40, experience is abundant but awareness is immature. After 40, awareness finally catches up. This is why many awakenings happen in midlife. You may feel an unexpected pull toward silence. Not isolation, but stillness. Not withdrawal, but depth. Noise feels exhausting. Superficial conversation feels empty. Conflict feels unnecessary. You may crave solitude. Not because you are lonely, but because clarity lives there. The second life is not about doing more. It is about being aligned. In the first life, identity is built on roles, career, family, status, reputation, achievement. In the second life, identity begins to loosen. You realize you are not your title. Not your past. Not your mistakes. Not even your achievements. You are the awareness observing all of it. This realization quietly changes everything. Yogananda emphasized that after 40, the soul seeks mastery rather than accumulation. Peace rather than applause. Truth rather than validation. This is why discomfort often arises during this phase. Not because life is falling apart, but because false structures are being outgrown. Many call it a midlife crisis. Yogananda would call it a midlife awakening. The discomfort is not the problem. Resistance is. When you try to cling to the first life while the soul is calling you into the second, suffering increases. But when you listen, something softens. The second life requires a different kind of courage. Not the courage to conquer the world, but the courage to release illusions. Illusions about success. Illusions about control. Illusions about who you must be to be worthy. This phase invites surrender. Not resignation. Not passivity. But intelligent surrender. Yogananda taught that surrender is alignment with higher intelligence. It is trusting the deeper movement of life rather than fighting it. When you stop forcing outcomes, life begins to reveal meaning. Desires simplify. But they deepen. You want less, but you want what matters. You may find yourself caring less about recognition and more about authenticity. Less about accumulation and more about contribution. Less about speed and more about truth. Values reorganize naturally. Time becomes sacred. Energy becomes intentional. Attention becomes selective. This is the soul reclaiming leadership from ego. The second life is also when service begins to feel natural. Not service born from obligation or guilt, but service that flows from understanding. You have lived. You have suffered. You have learned. And now, what you have learned wants to be shared. Your presence calms. Your words carry weight. Your silence holds wisdom. Yogananda believed that the latter half of life is meant for realization. Not renunciation of the world, but realization of self. You do not need to abandon life. You need to inhabit it consciously. The second life is quieter, but deeper. Slower, but truer. Simpler, but richer. You begin to live from essence rather than image. And something remarkable happens. Peace stops being a goal and becomes a baseline. Joy no longer depends on external success. Fulfillment no longer depends on approval. You become less reactive. More responsive. Less driven by fear. More guided by clarity. If you are approaching 40, or have crossed it, and feel disoriented, hear this clearly. Nothing has gone wrong. You are not late. You are not failing. You are not losing relevance. You are entering the phase where life stops testing your strength and begins inviting your wisdom. The world needs fewer restless achievers and more grounded beings. Yogananda taught that the ultimate success of life is not achievement, but awakening. And awakening often begins when the noise fades. Your second life does not begin with a dramatic event. It begins with a subtle shift in attention, from outside to within. Listen to it. Honor it. This is not the end of youth. It is the beginning of truth. If this message resonated with you, stay connected. Subscribe to Divya Antar for teachings rooted in timeless spiritual wisdom. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your journey may illuminate someone else's path. Remember this. Life does not end at 40. It finally begins to make sense.